Here is, I think, the simplest way to put it. There is an argument to be made that LeBron's peak was higher than Jordan.
False.
He was Finals MVP, League MVP, second place Defensive Player of the Year. I'm talking about the Heat in 2013, or 2014, up against anything Jordan ever did.
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit.
I will. And so, at least, can we, LeBron at his peak is as good as Jordan at his peak.
What the fuck are you talking about, man?
Okay.
But he was Defensive Player of the Year and MVP.
I understand, and LeBron was 3 votes shy of Defensive Player of the Year.
Stop it. Get some help.
No, we're kind of confusing it. That's fine. I think the peaks are similar.
That you are so not. Oh God. Balls.
If they were in college and LeBron was in the NBA, the better NBA player at 18 was LeBron.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
You already know Chris Broussard is going to dismantle and embarrass Nick Wright's nonsensical mental gymnastics that he's going to try to perform to make LeBron James look like he has a case for being the GOAT because of the 40K. But listen to the idiocy that he's going to spew, and I'll come back and dismantle it.
But how much do you think this should factor into the GOAT debate?
I don't think it's certainly not the deciding factor. If it were, Kareem would have been viewed as the GOAT. I mean, he was by far the highest scorer, until LeBron broke his record. And Nick, in sports, we tend to take peak over longevity. Right. As long as your peak was in a substantial career. You can't have a great peak for 4 years and, he's the GOAT. No. Yeah. As long as you had a legitimately lengthy career, we've always tended to say peak over longevity. In football, Emmitt Smith's the leading rusher. Very few people think he's the best ever. Some will say he's the best running back, but most will take a Barry Sanders, a Jim Brown, Eric Dickerson, or somebody else because their peaks were higher.
Yeah.
In baseball, Hank Aaron obviously was the home run leader until Barry Bonds, but Hank Aaron never hit 50 home runs in a year. So he was called the home run king because of the longevity, but a Babe Ruth,
he wasn't called the best baseball player.
Right. He was never viewed as the GOAT.
I agree with
that. Right. So I think in that regard, even the NBA, Magic Johnson, who I think is by far the greatest passer ever, is 7th in assists. Now we get his career was cut short, but still I think these are examples of how we view peak over longevity.
I agree with you on that. Where I will push back, and where I don't even think I'm pushing back against you. Yeah. Here is, I think, the simplest way to put it. There is an argument to be made that LeBron's peak was higher than Jordan's. There is an argument to be made that Jordan's peak was higher. But I will put the 27-game winning streak year, the year he was Finals MVP, League MVP, second place Defensive Player of the Year, I'm talking about the Heat in 2013, or 2014, up against anything Jordan ever did. I will. And so at least, can we agree that there is an argument that LeBron at his peak is as good as Jordan at his peak?
I think Jordan's peak was better.
I understand, and LeBron was 3 votes shy of Defensive Player of the Year and MVP.
He
that's fine, but that's the.
And 6 championships in 8 years. I'll even give you the 8 years.
So now you're talking about extended peak. Not singular peak. So you're calling peak the exact amount of time that Jordan won championships. Because the MVP and Defensive Player of the Year was what year? The
80.
Yeah, right. He did not. Right. So
sure.
not
he didn't
Jordan's
win a championship
peak.
That year.
It's weird. So I don't know. We're kind of confusing it. That's fine. I think the peaks are similar. The longevity's not. So the longevity's not a close call. LeBron is unquestionably.
88 was the year. 88,
right. So was that his peak or not?
It was during his peak.
Okay. So Jordan's peak was when?
But Nick. See,
the
longevity.
I'm asking.
But the longevity argument can work against LeBron too. Because the longer you play and less you win championships. Hold on, let me state it. Jordan won 6 championships in 15 years. And that's in counting 2 when he played like 17 and 18 games, okay? But 15 years, that's a championship every 2.5 years. LeBron has won 4 in 20 years. That's 1 every 5 years.
In your opinion, if LeBron James had retired from 17 to 19, and then also, by the way, retired right after his 1 championship with the Lakers, he would have a better GOAT case.
It'd be sick, though,
because
if he
then
played,
he
like,
had
professional
4
baseball.
in 16 years.
That is totally not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they both played a certain amount of seasons.
No, I get it.
All right,
but
I'm not counting retirement.
No, I understand.
Because I could sit here and say Jordan would have won 8 had he not retired. I'm not going to say that.
That's not what I'm trying to. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what you said at the end there is somehow that if LeBron keeps playing at this level longer,
if he has
and
4 championships in 23 seasons,
right? So if he,
how you going to compare that to Michael Jordan winning 6?
So again, and you're
15.
not a count the rings guy, but everything you've said here has been the rings.
No, because it's dominance.
If we sat down here and said, hey, who was better at 18? Who was better at 19? Who was better at 20? Who was better at 21? Who was better at 22?
You know who? Kareem.
I
mean, if you want to just say
I'm
that.
I'm so glad you said that.
We're talking about NBA GOAT, Nick. We're not talking about high school. We're not talking about college. Kareem and Jordan were in college.
I got it.
At 18 and 19.
Okay, so if they were in college and LeBron was in the NBA, the better NBA player at 18 was LeBron. And the better.
That's not, I mean.
Okay, so then Jordan's
I mean, we get
that's
nonsensical.
That's fine.
Nick Wright doesn't make any sense. He's at it again saying idiotic things. He really wants you to believe LeBron James at his peak was better than Michael Jordan. I believe he used the year 2013 or 2014, regardless whatever year he wants to use. It doesn't come close to Michael Jordan's 95-96 season. Michael Jordan's 95-96 season eradicates that point that Nick Wright tries to bring up. His 97 playoffs alone eradicates what he did. So to me, it doesn't have a lot of validity. The way these guys debate, if you listen to Nick Wright, he does all these mental gymnastics, goalpost shifting, gish galloping, to never prove his point. That's what they basically do. They never prove their point. They just try to move the goalpost because they have nothing to refute facts. It makes no sense, half of the nonsense that these guys say. I thought Chris Broussard literally annihilated him with some great points, especially when you try to push this longevity. But here's the thing that these LeBron James fanboys are trying to get you to believe. That because LeBron James has 40,000 K points, that should take precedent. Let me ask you LeBron James fanboys something. When Karl Malone had more points than Michael Jordan, why wasn't that a thing? When Kobe Bryant had more points than Michael Jordan, why wasn't that a thing? Why is it only when LeBron James gets this milestone, historic milestone, it becomes a key point in the decision making in the GOAT conversation? Because it was never a thing, it never had any precedence, but all of a sudden it has the world of precedence for it to mean anything. And speaking of the 2013, again, the 95-96 season annihilates that. So whatever point they try to bring up, whatever comparison they try to bring up, it never stands up to Michael Jordan, because you know why? This is a narrative. This is not nothing validated in reality. When Nick Wright tries to tell you that LeBron James 40K and his longevity has more precedence than Michael Jordan winning 6 championships in 8 years, that's when you know at that point this man can't be taken seriously. Anything he says is just a joke. Like I said, Chris Broussard brought up a great point. If you want to use longevity as a de facto point to try to make it seem like that's the answer to counteract everything, I thought what he brought up with Emmitt Smith having the most yards, nobody really considers Emmitt Smith the greatest running back of all time, even though he has the most yards. At a certain point, Brett Favre had more yards than Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, but nobody would take those two over, nobody would take Brett Favre over those two, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. These guys always want to use hypotheticals to start their argument. Anytime you start with a hypothetical in a debate, you already lost. because facts don't succumb to hypotheticals. Reality doesn't succumb to hypotheticals. LeBron James fanboys need to get this through their heads.